Have you ever thought about investing in stocks, but then immediately felt, well, completely overwhelmed about where to even begin? Trust me, you are not alone. So, over the next few minutes, we're going to cut right through all that noise. We'll lay out a simple, clear roadmap to get you started, even if you're coming from absolute zero. Let's dive in. For most people, the biggest hurdle isn't a lack of money or some secret knowledge. Nope, it's this feeling right here. A mix of confusion and, let's just be real about it, fear. All the jargon, the crazy-looking charts, it's enough to make anyone just want to turn around and walk away. And then, of course, there is the big one. The question that stops so many amazing people in their tracks. What if I lose my money? It is a completely valid concern, and it's probably the number one reason that the idea of investing often just stays an idea. So how do we get past that fear? Well, we start by completely reframing what investing actually is. See, it's not the stuff on the left, it's not a casino, it's not a guessing game, and it's definitely not a get-rich-quick scheme. The truth is what you see on the right. It's about becoming a part owner in a real business, focusing on its growth over the long haul. And the best part, it is absolutely a learnable skill. And that right there brings us to the single most important first step you can possibly take. And hey, it's not something you do on an app or a website, it happens right up here, in your head. It's all about adopting what we call the ownership mindset. So, what on earth does that mean? It's actually really simple. When you buy a stock, you're not just buying a little ticker symbol that goes up and down on a screen. No, you are literally buying a small piece of an actual operating business. You become a part owner. And listen, once you start seeing yourself as an owner, the entire game just changes. The question is no longer, hey, how can I make a quick buck? Instead, it becomes this: which company is actually worth owning for the long term? See the difference? You start thinking like a business partner, not like someone at a roulette table. Okay, so you've got that crucial mindset locked in. Now we can get to the practical stuff. It's time to build a solid financial foundation before you even think about buying your first share. This part is key. And this is the golden rule. It is non-negotiable if you want to invest without losing sleep. You should only ever invest with what you might call spare money. Cash you absolutely will not need for several years. And why is that so important? Because the market goes up and it goes down. If you use money you need for rent or for an emergency, you're going to panic and sell at the absolute worst time. Next up is opening something called a brokerage account. And the good news is, these days it is unbelievably simple. It's really just 3 steps. You gather your basic info, you apply online, which you can often do right from your phone in minutes, and then you connect your bank to fund the account. It's a quick process that just gets you set up and ready to go. But here's a really important piece of advice, just to take some pressure off. Just because you opened an account doesn't mean you have to jump in and buy something right away. Seriously, take your time. Let learning be your number one priority before you put a single dollar to work. All right, so you've got the owner's mindset, your financial house is in order, and your account is set up. So now what? Let's talk about how to actually make that very first move into the market. As a beginner, it's a really smart idea to steer clear of those risky speculative stocks you hear people buzzing about. Instead, a great place to start is with large, stable companies. You'll often hear them called blue-chip stocks. We're talking about businesses with products you probably use and understand, and that have a history of relatively stable performance. And this is just so important to remember. Your primary goal when you're just starting out is not to hit some massive home run. It's to survive and to learn. If you can focus on making as few mistakes as possible, you'll stay in the game long enough to gain that priceless experience. And please, don't feel like you need a ton of money to get started. Starting with a small amount is perfectly fine. In fact, it's smart. Think of it like paying tuition for a real-world education in investing. The experience you gain from that first investment is way more valuable than any initial profit. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the long game. Because look, making one good investment is one thing, but building real, lasting wealth over time, that takes the right habits and a little bit of discipline. One of the most powerful habits you can build is just simple consistency. There's a strategy called dollar cost averaging, which sounds way more complicated than it is. It just means you invest a set amount of money at regular times, say $100 every month, no matter what the market is doing. This automatically makes you buy more shares when prices are low and fewer when they're high. It takes all the stress out of trying to perfectly time the market. I guarantee every single person who invests goes through this. You finally buy a stock, And then, of course, the price drops. It's so easy to panic, but just look at this chart. Those dips, they are a completely normal, expected part of the market's long-term upward journey. Seriously, just knowing this ahead of time is half the battle. This really is the best way to think about it all. Stock investing is a marathon, not a sprint. Pretty much all of the biggest mistakes happen in those short-term moments of fear or greed. If you can just remember to be patient and zoom out, you basically have a superpower that most people don't. And remember, the market is always changing, which means your learning should never, ever stop. The more you learn about the companies you own, about the economy, and yeah, even about your own emotions, the more confident and capable you are going to become as an investor. So let's bring this all together. Starting from zero isn't about knowing everything or being perfect. It's just about starting with the right mindset, getting prepared, and then having the courage to take that first small step. And if there's just one thing you take away from all of this, let it be this right here. You don't need to be an expert to get started. The simple truth is, the sooner you begin, the more time you give your money and your knowledge to grow. In the world of investing, time is your single greatest advantage. And that really brings us to the final question. It's no longer about if you should invest or even how. The real question is a personal one, and it's just for you to answer. When are you going to take your first step?